So much more to come in the second half of the show. We'll be chatting to Shaheen Yusuf coming up shortly from Sahuk, responding to some of the comments from Santoa, which I thought was rather cryptic around quotas for Hajis, but linking the quotas to the fact that South Africa is described or categorized as a Muslim country. Well, some may say, inshallah, but that's not the case. We know that numerically, isn't it? So we'll talk about that. Maulana Muhammad Tariq will, as part of our feature on the how-to in Ramadan, we'll talk about how to be patient when you are fasting, okay? And we'll get an update with regard to South Africa's response, another abstention with an important UN vote against Russia, right? But before that, we'll talk to Faizel Patel. Let me just remind you, this program is brought to you by African Muslims Agency. Imagine a world where every family has food for suhoor and iftar in Ramadan. You can call to change the narrative. Call the Africa Muslims Agency on 010 262. Right. Let's get to Faizel Patel. So fascinating. One of the things we've been talking about in Ramadan is the how-to about, how do you engage with non-Muslims? How do you explain Ramadan to them? Now, I thought what the Turkish community from the Nizamiya Mosque in Midrand in Johannesburg are doing is quite fascinating, having been there before during Ramadan, during iftar time, about inviting a whole lot of people who are not of the Muslim faith and, of course, others of the Muslim faith to be present at their iftar reach out, right? Let's find out more about it because Faizel Patel, who does a tech show here on Salam Media and other things during Ramadan, will be taking in that iftar tomorrow. So Faizel, assalamu alaikum and welcome to the show.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to you, Ashraf, and to the audience of Salam Media.
Thank you. I understand you'll be working on the job tomorrow around iftar time. What are you going to be doing?
Yeah, I mean, as you rightly mentioned, that the Turkish community, especially Nizamiya, always invites very high-profile dignitaries to this dinner. And I just want to read it out here. It's called the Evening of Friendship and Unity. So it doesn't necessarily have to be Muslims. Over the years, we've seen people like yourself and Yusuf Abramji, Barbara Creasy, who's the Minister of Environmental Affairs, actually attended. The person that built the masjid, Uncle Ali, he normally comes there as well. And basically, they want to share in the unity of Ramadan. They want non-Muslims to experience what Ramadan is. Nobody eats until obviously the iftar time sets in. So, inshallah, I decided that because I'm invited there, I will use that opportunity, obviously, to do the iftar program from there, which will sort of hopefully create the sense of unity that is not only shared amongst the Muslim community, but across communities across South Africa, whether you're Muslim or not. And to take a classic example, I'm at the Citizen, and while we're doing this interview, I'm the only Muslim person in my department, yet my colleagues have had the utmost respect for myself, especially during the month of Ramadan.
And when you say they've had the utmost respect for you, what have they done?
Well, besides being sympathetic to allowing me, to leave early, to come in early so it doesn't impede on any of my fasting or my gestures that I do during Ramadan, that's one aspect. And also the respect of, is it okay we eat in front of you? Is it okay we have coffee in front of you? It doesn't really bother me because, that shouldn't be an issue, because you made your niyyah. But for the fact for them to acknowledge that you are fasting, I think for me that is very, very beautiful gesture.
Absolutely. So go back then to the Turkish mosque, the Nizamiya Mosque, right? What are your expectations in terms of what do they actually do when all these people come together? Some of them Muslim, others not Muslim, sitting around the table in the period just pre-iftar and then immediately after. What do they do?
Well, basically, they got some addresses, obviously, by some of the Turkish dignitaries, especially from the masjid, to say why they're doing this particular dinner. Basically, it changes from year to year. So, to bring them together. And then you'll have, I don't know which minister they got this year. Last year, they had Barbara Creasy, if I'm not mistaken, or the year before. And they basically highlight the importance of unity. At the moment, Ashraf, you will know about the deep fluid protests and the xenophobic violence, some people calling it that. We've seen the unrest in KZN last year. South Africa at the moment, within certain circles, is a fragmented society. We can't even stand with Ukraine on voting Russia as a non-member of the UN Security Council. Yesterday, Ramaphosa, obviously, again, sharing the rhetoric of negotiations. So it is a fragmented society. We've seen the shenanigans in Parliament. So if we can start this unity things on the community level, hopefully this can reverberate throughout the country. Also, I want to emphasize that during this month, you also see a number of mass iftars. And I must emphasize, because this has been coming after 2 years after the whole COVID-19 pandemic. We've seen now the state of disaster is now, well, it's lifted already, basically. People don't have to wear masks. Social distancing is there, but people are more together now.
So that would have changed, absolutely, yeah. Just the last thing, your thoughts on when people are seated around that table, right? What do the non-Muslims learn about Muslims and Islam and Ramadan in that period where they're chatting over the breaking of the fast?
I think there's so many things. I mean, I've got asked so many questions here at work. I'm sure you guys can drink water. So I said, no, we can't drink water. What time do you fast from? From dawn to dusk, things like that. How long is your guys' fast? What do you eat? There's a misconception sometimes. There was one interview that was done beautifully with 702 Malana Ibrahim Bam actually went on, where people had questions, so many questions: who's allowed to fast, who's not allowed to fast. And that's what I've been tasked with here, the Citizen, to actually share some of the etiquettes about fasting. What does it mean? I just written a story last week sometime about some of the countries that have the longest fast. We, South Africa, among New Zealand and another country, I think it is Australia, have the shortest fast, between 11 and 12 hours. And in Iceland, got anywhere between 15 and 20 hours. So these are kind of things that people want to know. And obviously, when you're sitting around the table, how is it to fast? Why do you fast?
Absolutely.
Malala Bam explained it. I just want to end with it. Is that they call it the scorching of the earth. That's what Ramadan means, the scorching of the earth. And but not in a literal sense for us, because when you are scorched by thirst and hunger, you will then understand the manifestation of the fast and what it means for people that may not have food and drink ready available.
Well, I think in this case here, in conclusion, I mean, the fact that the Turkish community, by and large, using this as a reach out to and an outreach to get other people to understand their faith is a way of hitting the target. And I'm looking at your dartboard in the background, so clearly they've hit the target and they've got that well. Faizel Patel, thank you so much for your time. Assalamu alaikum. Talking about hitting the target, let's get a Sahuk response to what I thought was a very cryptic conversation I had with a representative from Samtoa yesterday. We'll do that with Shaheen Yusuf right after this.